going to read to you a short excerpt from a longer poem in the first book entitled Colony Collapse Disorder. Exordium. European honeybees, Apis mellifera, have suffered from a pandemic syndrome that causes workers to forsake their duties, foraging without returning home, leaving the queen and her brood unattended, until the hive itself dwindles into abandonment. Moreover, any stores of honey in the forsaken dwelling often go unlooted by other pests for much longer than expected. While entomologists have proposed several factors that might contribute to this disorder, including bouts of infection by either varroa mites or fungal smuts, the problem is likely aggravated by the broad usage of the pesticide imidacloprid, a neonicotinoid that can disrupt the nervous systems of bees, impairing their ability to navigate. The disorder threatens this species of insect with extinction, thus posing a danger to the welfare of humanity, which relies upon such bees to pollinate crops. On the plight of the swarm. Demigods grant the honeybees a share of the divine liquor, the mead that hath caused imbibers to dream of the ether, which suffuses the empire of the stars, a chasm from which all mortals amass at birth each atom of their inner flame. Unto this abyss all souls are gathered, to be torn asunder, scattered like soot in a gale. But upward into this vault of night fly tiny bees in mighty hordes. If thou durst unlatch their sarcophagi to drink from thy cup the floral syrup, dab thy lip with rose water by the tomb, then pry the lid amid a cloud of smoke. Harvests of these nectaries by clansfolk occur twice in the quartet of seasons. Once when the gazelle of the Pleiades uplifts her starlit antlers for bowyers to see, her footfall spraying the sea foam, and once when she flees pursuit by Pisces, dipping from the skies to sit from a sea so icy that the chill fills her with scorn. When bitten by their enemies, all bees can spit out venom through a tiny dart, leaving part of their spirit in the scar. If thou durst dread the perils of winter, feigning to temper such coming danger, let the trials of thy slaves prick thy heart. Fearless be thy servants who fumigate the hive with frankincense, excising wax, now pestilent, for lizards gnaw unseen into the comb, as insects cram, unjust, into each room, like rivals at thy feast. The vulgar beetle that spoils thy labor, the brutal hornet that steals thy repast, the greedy locust that swills thy nectar, the savage spider damned by Minerva to weave a cobweb across each egress. When a bee feels such impoverishments, it strives more keenly to heal the ravished fortunes of its race, refilling these casks by ransacking daisies without surcease. Doomsday wreaks its toll of ruination upon these helots, whose bodies languish and collapse under the lash of bondage. The afflicted, gray and lean with decay, are borne away on biers by pall-bearers, the ungrieving caretakers bred to clear the waxen cells, whilst survivors loiter, listless from famine in these vestibules, each soul frost-bitten by an early chill. Now hearken to the keening of the hive. Not a wind that sighs amid the aspens, nor a tide that booms upon the oceans, but more akin to some hellish bonfire trapped within the crucibles of its kiln. Enkindle censers filled with laudanum, then lighten the beggardom of thy serfs by piping them molasses through a reed, exhorting each starveling to sip till full. Brew for them a liquor of oaken galls and dried roses, if not a wine quickened to a boil like a stew, the crushed raisins from Scythian vines infused with acrid resin made of knapweed and feverfew. Hunt far in thy pastures for the starwort, a breed of aster dotting each hill crest, the lone seed upthrusting many a stem, its crown all gilt but girt with a muster of blades, a gleam in hues of amethyst. Garlands of these purple petals imbue thy altars with scents of bittersweetness, and peasants tending sheep in a valley by the river Mella gather these blooms to steep them in mulses of honeydew, left in an alms bowl beside each warren. But if thy legions die without warning, the beekeepers unable to spawn them anew, then let me divulge a woeful legend which can convey the arcanum taught to us by the swain Aristeus, how the bloodletting of a bull, if slain, gives birth to a swarm from the carrion. Let me unveil this omen of our doom. Epilogue. Virgil greets us at the gates of death to tell us that we love our lovers, but never enough to bring them back from hell. How can we apologize for our desire when our lust for life gives birth to murder? How can we regain the favor of the gods when we discover that as penance for our crime against true love, we have damned our children to leave the fallout shelter? How can our poetic patron, a heroic leader of the empire, earn forgiveness for sending all his soldiers to the grievous abattoir of warfare, plowing them like salt into our pasture? How do we expiate our sins after having already sacrificed every beast upon every altar? How do we absolve ourselves for having caused our own extinction? Be it known that the fruit upon the tree of Eden is a beehive leaking out black honey, made by bees that feed upon the infernal blossoms of the underworld.